I'm Michael Fox, and this is the Prospector Podcast. And I am joined today by the President and CEO of Western Alaska Minerals, Kit Mars. Welcome back to the show, Kit.
Hey, good to talk to you again, Michael.
Yes, for those who aren't familiar with your project, let's give them the quick 10,000-foot view of what you're doing, where you're doing it, and why you're doing it.
Okay, well, sure. We'll give you a real short one. So, as the name of the company implies, our project is in Western Alaska. We focus on the Illinois Creek mining district. So, these are all 1980s discoveries by Anaconda Copper Company. I was part of that and ran the project early on. And host to the project is the namesake is the Illinois Creek mine, and that was the first open pit, past producing heap leach gold mine in Alaska. But since then, we've really advanced the project substantially, and we have our two resources. Our flagship, extremely high grade Water Pump Creek deposit is on one end of a 8 kilometer long carbonate replacement deposit system, and at the other end is the more central gold, silver, copper that is the source of the Illinois Creek mine mineralization. So we've been working there off and on since 2010, went public in November of 21, and have really been advancing the project since then.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a good project. I'm quite excited for what's coming out of there, and the opportunities are fantastic. And Alaska is a wonderful place to be working in. You and I, we were together just a couple of weeks ago. We were down at the big Precious Metals Summit in Beaver Creek, Colorado, with a few hundred of our friends and family in the mining sector. We were supposed to do this particular podcast while we were down there, but we ended up scheduling our meeting just ahead of your presentation, and you were kind of like an NFL quarterback that was getting his game face on, and so we put this off until today. But having spent your time in Beaver Creek this year, what was your thoughts about the summit and the general market feeling going into the fall?
Well, Beaver Creek is probably the leading U.S. based mine finance get together. It's certainly a great location. This year, I thought that the sentiment was definitely more optimistic than a year ago. A year ago, it was pretty tough in the market, and that carried forward for several more months. And I think the turnaround occurred this summer. Well, hopefully it continues, but it was very successful for our company. I think we had 42 meetings. I gave 3 interviews, would have been 4 with you, and that one presentation. So I do appreciate not trying to put them back to back. That would have been a little difficult, but it was a great cross-section of a lot of companies that we've been talking to, producers, funds, high net worth individuals, very good. And it was a good cross-section of the industry.
Yeah, I thought Beaver Creek was particularly good this year. I myself had lots of meetings there, formal, and then I also had a lot of informal discussions with other people at the cocktail lounge, walking through the village, et cetera, et cetera. The difference between last year and this year is huge in my mind. I found last year, I think we had, as an industry, had reached that point of capitulation where everything was so bad that people had just accepted it. And now, a year later, gold is at record prices. Silver is up 50% from, its $20 lows. A lot of the other metals are holding their own in spite of headwinds. The market itself has seemed to have shifted its way from capitulation to what I would say cautiously optimistic, looking forward into the future.
Yeah, the metals prices, precious metal prices, and copper have certainly made a great recovery. The market itself, the producers are coming back. I think the mid tier and the explorers are really just starting to move. There hasn't been really much of a movement there, but it's, I think one of the highlights of Beaver Creek was a presentation by John Hathaway from Sprott, really one of the was the founder of the Tocqueville Fund, one of the first gold mining funds put together, and Ronald Peter Stofferly from Liechtenstein in Gold We Trust report. They gave a very measured, highly analytical and insightful analysis of mainly the gold markets and macroeconomy. And I think they called it right on. This would be really the start of an increase in gold and silver prices following the gold. And I think they're probably the best in, they don't like to call the market on a number, but they certainly have called the direction. So that was a very good presentation.
Yeah, you've got two heavyweight analysts that are very pragmatic on the stage at the same time. You're definitely going to get some really good indication as to where they actually think the market is going to go. While we were in Beaver Creek, although we weren't able to record this, we did have a nice conversation in the meeting room as you were prepping for your presentation. You had just actually gotten some more results coming in from your Warm Springs find on your property. I believe it was 2 out of the 7 holes had assays returned, and those early numbers look pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is very true. Warm Springs is a target that's been on our presentation maps for at least 2.5 years, something that we've been wanting to test. But we first had to finish the fill-in drilling at Water Pump Creek so we could announce a resource, which we did in February, March of this year. So this was the first time we've drilled it at Warm Springs, really the first drill holes ever in the target. It is only about 1.5 kilometers, a little bit more southeast of the past producing Illinois Creek mine. It was a structural target based on geology and geophysics, and very pleased that it looks like 5, if not maybe all 7 holes, we still getting the results back, have hit mineralization. The second drill hole, Warm Springs 5, was announced on September 10th. And these holes were the first time that ever in our drilling, not the historical, but in our drilling since 2020, where we hit copper and gold mineralization. Water Pump Creek is extremely high grade silver, lead, zinc, but it really is next to no gold and very, very little copper. So it just proves our model that we have a very large carbonate replacement deposit system. Peter McGaw has been an advisor, a good friend for many years. This was his 4th trip, I believe, on site when we were out end of August to review the season drilling. And I would really like to point your listeners to, there is a link, I think, on our website, but definitely in the news release, to a video on-site interview with Peter and Sage Langston Stewart, our lead geologist. And it really talks about his interpretation of what we found at Warm Springs. So some very good gold grades. We want to get them thicker to a mineable thickness right now, but these are the first times we've hit this style of mineralization, and our goal is to next year to really follow up and expand on it.
Yeah, I've known Dr. McGaw for quite a number of years. When I first got into this business, I was as raw as they came, and he's been, over the years, one of the gentlemen I've been able to learn quite a bit about geology from. As I laughingly say to real geologists, I'm just enough to be dangerous now, but Peter's got to be really excited about this find on your property, because it's that kind of hub and spoke type of mineralization he gets really pumped up about.
Yeah, he's really developed the model based on a lot of his work in Mexico, especially at Santa Eulalia in northern Chihuahua, really the foremost CRD system in the world as we know the geology now. And he has really been helping in the exploration. And I'll go back to the fact that the past producing Illinois Creek mine was In the 1990s, when it was in production for a very short time, only about 18 months, really viewed as just as an oxide gold deposit without really much thinking of how it fit in geologically. With Peter's help, we had a model, and the drilling at Warm Springs, I think, has definitely proved it, where Illinois Creek represents the more proximal to somewhere a buried intrusive, but proximal meaning higher temperature gold, silver, and copper mineralization. And 8 kilometers away, tied together by structures, different faults, feeder zones, we have the more distal, lower temperature, but very high grade silver Water Pump Creek deposit. We've now filled in some of the gap with the discovery at Warm Springs, and I think that has proven the system. We have also shown that it's south of the Warm Springs fault, and as opposed to being purely oxide like the past producing mine, we're hitting sulfides with a higher level of gold copper mineralization, and then maybe 50, 80 meters a little lower in the stratigraphy. We are also hitting the lead zinc silver. So there's a cross section on that news release September 10th that really is very helpful, and that really tells the story.
Yeah. Now, that was the results of 2 of 7 holes. You've got 5 more holes worth of assays to come. What kind of a timeline is the labs promising you right now to get some of those results back to you?
They're coming in pretty much every couple days. We send out a shipment as soon as it's ready to ship out. So one drill hole may have 3 separate shipments in it. But we've announced holes 4 and 5. I think we'll have hole 8 coming out fairly soon. And then the 2 last holes are 11 and 12. And then there's 1 or 2 others in between. These are all in the same area. The goal is we drilled some angle holes to the northeast, to the north, to the northwest. And we want to tie the picture together both geologically and with the geochemistry through the assays. That will allow us, once we get all the data together, to really come up with a model for Warm Springs. So I anticipate, hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have enough information for another news flow. And then the last 2 drill holes were just completed on the 28th, 29th of August, when Peter and I and my wife Joan were out on site. So those still have probably a month to go. And then we'll be talking about our airborne geophysical survey, not ours. It was done by the state of Alaska in conjunction with the U.S. Geological Survey. First time the district has ever been flown in a helicopter, very detailed aeromag survey. So great information there. We really haven't had a chance to look at it yet. We'll be talking about that later in the winter before the first of the year.
Yeah, it's you're getting to the point where you're not going to be able to do much groundwork left up there in Alaska. Winter is about to come, but I guess you get to put your geological nerd glasses on, and you're going to bury yourself in data for the rest of the winter to know what to do next spring.
Yeah, it is a seasonal drilling exploration season, but when it's light, pretty much all throughout the day, continuous. We get a lot of work done. We work 24/7 for essentially at least 3 months, sometimes as long as 4 to 5 months, depending on the budget. We really have a 5-month plus drilling season, but it's a function of funding. So we have a tremendous amount of data. We're very excited about the Warm Springs target. We also will be starting to look at some very preliminary economics for Water Pump Creek. With the increase in silver prices up 50%, as you said, we still need to add more tonnage there, but the grade is so high, 980 grams per ton silver equivalent, that the margin with high silver prices, that could probably be a standalone operation today with those metal prices. And then we'll also take a look at our going public resource that we haven't talked about very much, and that is the gold and silver at the past producing Illinois Creek mine. We have 525,000 ounces of a combined indicated, mostly indicated plus inferred. And that is principally gold, but quite a bit of silver. I think it's 36 plus or minus grams per ton silver in the resource. But those are all those numbers were based on $1,600 gold and $20 silver. So both of those are up close to 50% or more. And we'll take another look at the economics there. And hopefully sometime after the first of the year, we can, if we decide it's a good idea, we can start talking about economics on one or both of those.
Yeah, sounds like for a time when the drill isn't going to be turning, you're going to be very busy crunching numbers and looking at big picture items in all of this.
Yeah, no, that's very true. A lot of data, and we'll be hopefully having a pretty nice news flow between now and the say January of next year, and we'll hopefully have some good things to announce as we come forward. And markets seem to be, after many years of down and flat, seem to be going in the right direction. So really looking forward to 2025 as being a very positive, very exciting year, and can't wait to develop our targets and get started. And maybe next year we can start a lot earlier than we have in the past.
Yeah, the stars and the planets seem to be aligning in your favor. If people want to follow your work and the progress that you're making over the course of the winter and going into to next spring's drill season, how would they go about doing so?
Well, certainly start with our website, follow the news releases. Vanessa Bogart, our Director of Corporate Communication, has listed her email on the news releases and on the website. And we're very open for communication. So anybody that wants to learn more can contact Vanessa, and we'll get back to you that way. And if you have strong interest, we can always try to set up a short Zoom meeting, something like that, or at one of the conferences coming up. We'll be attending Precious Metals in Zurich in November, and then also Brian Lundine's New Orleans conference, and probably a couple more. We're just rounding the schedule out as we speak.
Yeah, I think the next time you and I are going to cross paths in person will be down in New Orleans at the end of November. But I'm looking forward to hearing about those next rounds of results between now and then, and I'm excited for you. So until we get a chance to talk again, thank you for joining me today.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and thanks for making the time.
Western Alaska Minerals is a paid sponsor of the Prospector News. The Prospector News podcast is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and are not to be taken as investment advice. Listeners need to do their own due diligence and seek advice of a licensed investment advisor.